This week's something that should frighten the hell out of Ford and Toyota. It's the Cannon from GWM. In order to understand GWM, you have to understand the false start probably a decade and a half ago, but it was reborn as this, the GWM Cannon. Vastly superior to the previous generation of the utes, and I think looks really, really good. When it's not clean, it looks a little bit, I don't know, it looks like the paint's faulty. You can see the little spots of dirt on it. But it's got rather sexy black wheels, and these sacrifice pieces, they look like they're properly engineered. This also comes standard with a snorkel for deeper wading, smart locking and unlocking, side steps that look strong enough to be sliders, and around the back this really clever tailgate, which comes down on struts. You'll see a lined tub, and they're all lined throughout the range. And then they add little tasteful touches like this. You push this button, out the step pops, like so. Just push that down. It's at knee height, so maybe it takes an athletic 18-year-old to be able to use it, but I'm not going to do it. Fold that back up, push it in. Then on the outside, you've got another step, some extraction points. It's just under $51,000 drive away. To get similar in the Toyota and the Ford, you'll have to pay $15,000 to $20,000 more. You've got a back seat that actually works. You can see my feet go under the seat in front. There's a few inches of legroom, a rear vent, some USB-Cs, and a trinket tray. Now, my headroom is extremely limited. There's a little bump just here you can see, and that's because this is the sunroof. And I can't think of any of the Rangers or Hiluxes that have sunroofs. If you lift the tab, the back seats will come down. They will fold flat if you don't have something on the back seat like I do. And there's space under the seats as well. Before I get in the front, let's have a look at this. Power seats, and that's on both sides. The rear door plastic is a bit scratchy, but everything else feels extremely soft and, dare I say it, luxurious. Now I'll start this, and the screen comes to life. It doesn't flash like that in real life, that's just because it's the camera. My CarPlay is already connected, so let's go and have a look at that. That's wireless. My phone's in the charger. There's a couple of USBs down here, some fixed buttons for various functions. This is the seat button that activates the heating and cooling. However, it doesn't work when CarPlay is on. You have to be in the GWM main menu or one of the other GWM menus, where if you then press it, the air conditioning menu comes up, as well as the air conditioning buttons at the side. These don't stay there when you go to CarPlay. It all goes away. I just think that's just daft. But anyway, it's got, so if you touch the air conditioning as well, the buttons come up. There's seat heating and cooling for both front seats, fully automatic air conditioning, but only with one zone. There's a rather neat looking automatic selector, a bank of 12-volt buttons, parking brake, auto hold, the diff locks front and back, and the downhill descent control and the parking cameras, which are extremely clear. The only thing I don't like is that naff drawing on the dashboard, and it's meant to be an outline of a GWM. There are trinket trays on both sides, and in the center bin there's an outlet for letting cool air in, and that'll slide across whether the lid's open or closed. So I'd prefer my cup in there, thank you very much. But as you see, it doesn't work very well. The steering wheel buttons are all straightforward. This one sort of controls the menu on the dash, but you have to hold it down to scroll between. And then if you leave it for any length of time, it goes back to the lane control menu. There's Voice control, heated steering wheel, and this is a programmable button. I've got that to mute. This you can get quickly to the driver assist menu. There's also system settings here, and that's where you go to do sound and the steering wheel button and voice, etc. There's one final thing I want to go through before we set off. In the DAB, you'll notice there's no presets here in the DAB menu. There is in AM and FM, but not DAB. The only place you can access them is here in the side menu. And finally, there's a high-mounted USB for dash cams. Okay, the parking brake is let go, and I've got my CarPlay up for directions. This also has navigation as well. Four-wheel disc brakes on this are standard across the range, and that's something that in some of the other brands you don't even get in the top models. Leaf springs apparently carry more weight, but they don't ride as well, nor do they handle as well. And that's the other problem, is that this is really firm. I feel like I'm kind of getting chucked about a bit in these corners. But 51,000 versus 82 to 90,000 for a Ranger, a Rogue, Hilux, similar amount of money. There's only 135 kilowatts. And as I mentioned outside, there's two drive lines. There's a 2-litre 8-speed automatic and a 2.4-litre in-house 9-speed automatic. The 9-speed automatic feels a bit dim-witted at times, and it's trying to get into the highest gear possible so that it can have decent fuel figures. The only drive menus are off-road drive menus. Other than that, you've got standard on-road. You've got 2 high and 4 low, plus a bunch of programs for mud, sand, etc. So because this is part-time 4-wheel drive, the tail gets very happy in the wet and the rear would break traction. My average speed is 36 kilometres an hour. It goes to tell you how truly awful the traffic is in Sydney. And the average fuel consumption is 11.8 litres per 100 kilometres. It's not exactly what I'd call brilliant. Hi GWM.
Please say it.
Temperature, 20 degrees.
Okay, AC's temperature is set as 20 degrees.
Well, let's see if I can turn the driver's seat cooling on.
Okay, turn on seat ventilation for you.
That worked. I can feel the automatic steering me between lanes. It is really strong. And once I turn the cruise control on, it's even stronger. And the cruise control is extra controls down here by the steering wheel. The towing capacity between this and the other top selling utes, well, that's within cooee, around 3 to 3.5 tonne. This is also a smidge bigger than Hilux. This just looks modern and even a little bit luxurious. Yes, this is only very thin vinyl over foam rubber, but it feels beautiful to touch. The other thing is the screen is massive compared to anything in Hilux. Massive. The driver's screen, it's the middle bit's digital, the side bits are just these little analog, which is a bit dusty, analog readouts for, what's that one, temperature? Yeah, temperature and fuel. The drive on the highway is fairly smooth, even with this incredibly hard suspension. But it gets full marks for price and value for money. It gets full marks for inclusion. I absolutely love this interior. Just about all of the Chinese cars have either painted liners or plastic liners like this one has. They've all got little natty gadgets. That pull-out step is genius. Well, it's genius if you're a athletic, well-muscled 18-year-old. Not so much if you're an old man. I think this is one of the best value utes on the market. The Chinese brands are really doing a fantastic job. Some people still don't trust them, but that's a matter for the buyer to decide for themselves. As always, hit like, leave a comment, and just on the round thing to subscribe.